الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله وسلم على محمد وآله وصحبه أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue the tafsir of Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the longest surah in the whole Quran. It has 286 ayah. And Surah Al-Baqarah has the greatest ayah in the Quran, which is Ayat al-Kursi. And also Surah Al-Baqarah has the longest ayah in the Quran, which is Ayat al-Dain, that talks about debt. That's the longest ayah in the Quran. And Surah Al-Baqarah has many virtues. If you recite Al-Baqarah in a house, the shayateen will not exist in that house. The shayateen, they flee from the house where Surah Al-Baqarah is recited. So Surah Al-Baqarah has a lot of benefits. In this particular ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He speaks about the third category of the people, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divided the people into three categories. The first category are the believers, and He mentioned their characteristic, and He described the believers. And then after that, He spoke about the disbelievers, al-kuffar. And then after that, He's going to talk about al-munafiqeen, the hypocrite, wal-iyadu billah. And the hypocrisy is of two types. You have hypocrisy of belief, and you have hypocrisy of action. Hypocrisy of belief is when someone, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us all from that, when someone hides al-kufr in their heart and they manifest al-iman wal-islam. And this one, wal-iyadu billah, is far worse than an original disbeliever. Because the original disbeliever, he doesn't hide anything. But the hypocrite, wal-iyadu billah, he hides al-kufr in his heart while he manifests al-islam wal-iman. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He spoke about them in the Quran, He said, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. He said the hypocrites are in the lowest level of the fire. Lowest level. There is no one under them in terms of punishment and the like. Because they manifest Islam wal Iman. They may come and pray with the believers and the like, and they may say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah and the like, but their heart contradicts their statement. Wal-iyadu billah. So these are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about in this particular ayat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْمُفْسِدُونَ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. When it is said to them, do not cause corruption on the earth, they say, we are only reformers. They are truly the ones who make corruption, but they do not perceive. Sheikh Abdul Rahman ibn Nasr al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, when these hypocrites are asked to cease spreading corruption on the earth, which entails their act of denial and other bad deeds, such as disclosing to the enemy the secrets of the faithful, because that's what they do. Because they, in reality, they are not Muslims. They are hypocrites. Hypocrites, disbelievers, even though they may claim to be Muslims. So what they do, they disclose the secrets of the Muslim government to the enemies. They go and tell them what's going on and the like. So basically, they are loyal to the disbelievers. And then you're going to see more description about them. So the Shaykh, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, such as disclosing to the enemy the secrets of the faithful and being friends with the disbelievers. They reply that they are reformers. Thus, they conjoined two different things: spreading corruption on the earth, and they're saying that this is not spreading of corruption. That is even worse. Wal-iyadu billah. So when someone does something evil, and then he says, no, I am just a peacemaker. Na'udhu billah min dhalik. So his action contradicts his statement. So The Shaykh, he said, spreading corruption on the earth, and they're saying that this is not spreading of the corruption, but reforming. They have first changed the reality by defining corruption as reforming. And secondly, conjoined a false deed and the belief of considering it correct. These people are far worse criminals than those who sin while considering that sin are prohibited deeds. Yes, they are far worse than that, because at least the one who is committing sin, he knows that this is haram. Huh? But the hypocrite, wal-iyadu billah, he's saying that that which is corruption is reform and is good. Wal-iyadu billah. You see, there are people with deception. They try to use deception. Wal-iyadu billah. So the Shaykh, he said, defining corruption as reforming, and secondly, conjoined a false deed and the belief of considering it correct. These people are far worse criminals than those who sin while considering that sin as prohibited deed, since the latter are nearer to being at peace, because hope still exists for them to ultimately abstain from their sins. طيب. Since in their statement we are only reformers, rectification seems to be limited and confined to them. So it produces a secondary meaning that the faithful are not able to reform things. Exactly for this reason, Allah rebounds back their claim on them by saying they are truly the ones who make corruption. Since there is no greater corruption than denying Allah's verses, right? That's the worst corruption ever. When you deny your Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one that gives you the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, the one that gave you all this body, these blessings, you can't even count them. And then, wal-iyadu billah, you deny Him. He's even worse, wal-iyadu billah, than anything else. When you deny the existence of the Creator, then that's the worst sin ever. Wal-iyadu billah. Yes. The Shaykh, he said, rahimahullah ta'ala, it produces a secondary meaning that the faithful are not able to reform things. Exactly for this reason, Allah rebounds back their claim on them by saying they are truly the ones who make corruption. Since there is no greater corruption than denying Allah's verses, refraining people from following Allah's path, trying to deceive Allah and His awliya, and making friends with the enemies of Allah and His Prophet, even when they are in pretense that they are the ones who are the reformers. Does any other corruption remain after this? After this, they have no knowledge which can benefit them, although they are aware that this is going to create an absolute argument against them, and that only their deeds were the cause of corruption on the earth. Due to these bad deeds and sins, disasters, and causing destruction to grains, fruits, trees, and crops, reforming the earth seems to inhabit it with the virtue of faith and obedience to Allah. Allah has fashioned His creation and spread them on the earth for the sole purpose of having faith and obedience in Him. He opened the doors to the means of all His substance for them, so that they may, with its help, worship and obey Him. Thus, whenever they go against Allah's worship and obedience, they will be creating chaos and destruction on earth, and uprooting from it that for which it was originally created. Because the earth is created so that we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on it, not to create corruption, wal-iyadu billah, and spread corruption on it. This is not the reason why. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قَالُوا أَنُؤْمِنُ كَمَا آمَنَ السُّفَهَاءُ أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ السُّفَهَاءُ وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. When it is said to them, believe as the people have believed, they say, shall we believe as the fools have believed? They are indeed the fools, but they do not know it. SubhanAllah. This is very heavy. When the hypocrites are asked to accept faith such as the one that the Prophet's companions accepted, radiyallahu anhum, which is the true faith of the heart and the tongue, they reply arrogantly, shall we believe as the fools have believed? Shame upon them. By fools, they mean the Prophet's companion, because in their arrogance they falsely believed that their faith, migration, and enmity against the disbelievers was signs of their foolishness. They think that common sense entails just the opposite of this behavior, due to which they falsely try to link the Prophet's companion with foolishness and imbecility. A secondary meaning that arises from the view of the hypocrites is that they only affirm themselves as possessors of the attributes of intelligence and wisdom. SubhanAllah, all the time, the people that claim intelligence and all this, you find them, wal-iyadu billah, they are the worst fools on the surface of this earth. All those that, like for example, Darwin, this guy who came up with this theory of Darwinism, that man came from ape. Okay, this guy, he claims that we be very smart and intellectual and all this. And look how foolish this man is. Look how foolish. Because if that was the case, then what happened to all those apes that are in the zoos? Why aren't they developed into men? And that goes against the Quran, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned in the Quran that the first human being Allah created is Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. So how can you say that man got developed into an ape? How can you say something like that? Because if that was the case, all the apes in the world would be humans. This is very foolish and very stupid, All these guys that claim that they are very intellectual and they are smart and intelligent and all this, in reality they are very, very foolish, very foolish. They think that common sense entails just the opposite of this behavior, due to which they falsely tried to link the Prophet's companion with foolishness and imbecility. A secondary meaning that arises from the view of the hypocrite is that they only affirm themselves as possessors of the attributes of intelligence and wisdom. Allah refutes their claim and informs them that it is they who are in fact the ones that are foolish and imbecile. The reality of foolishness is that a person becomes ignorant of his own good. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. This is very heavy. And involves himself in acts which only brings him loss. Wal-iyadu billah. May Allah save us from that. That's very dangerous actually. Wal-iyadu billah. Very dangerous. SubhanAllah. A person destroys his own self. Wal-iyadu billah. This attribute applies appropriately to the hypocrite. Intelligence and wisdom demands that a person be always aware of his good and consistently try to obtain those good, while refraining from deeds that are bound to contribute to his loss. The Prophet's companion possessed this virtue in its best form. Thus nothing can be proved with hollow claims and empty rhetoric. Rather, it can only be proven with real virtues and solid arguments. Allahu Akbar. A person can talk as much as he wants, but we have to look at the reality of this man. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. الله يستهزئ بهم ويمدهم في طغيانهم يعمهون. When they meet those who believe, they say we believe. But when they are alone with their evil ones, they say, we are indeed with you. We were only mocking. Allah mocks them and prolongs them in their transgression to wander blindly. What they declare is only empty speech and verbal attestation, which is lacking from their hearts. Because the hypocrite, he doesn't speak from his heart. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. He's munafiq. He does not speak from his heart. He does a lot of lip service and rhetoric, but the reality, there is nothing in his heart. Because they are not in possession of it. So when the hypocrite go to the faithful, they pretend as if they too are following their ways. But when they meet their satanic heads or the mischievous wealthy in solitude, they say to them, in reality, we are with you. We were just mocking the faithful by saying to them that we are with them. This is the actual condition of their internal and external appearance. Such ploys only harm those who carry them out. Allah mocks them and prolongs them in their transgression to wander blindly. This mockery by Allah is the direct result of the mockery they commit on other people. Allah's mockery on them is that He makes their wretchedness and evil disposition appear before them as lustrous and good, since Allah has not yet made the faithful dominant over them. They erroneously believe that they too are among the faithful. On the day of recompense, Allah will commit another mockery on them by giving them an apparent light along with the faithful. But when the faithful begin to walk in their light, the light of the hypocrite will vanish. Subhanallah. And this is the worst punishment for them. وَعِيَادُ بِاللَّهِ. Imagine that. You think you have it, but you don't have it. نَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Yeah, this is very serious. May Allah save us. May Allah save us all. But when the faithful begin to walk in their light, the light of the hypocrite will vanish, and they will be stranded in this darkness, astonished. Thus, how bad this darkness of despair will be after having the light of hope. I'm going to stop here, Ikhwan. I can't go beyond this. Allah is very scary. May Allah save us. May Allah protect all of us. Protect all of us. Ya Rab. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.